Hi there. Welcome to the Small Business Coffee Break, the video series where we take a few minutes to work on your business, not just in it. Today we learn what are cyber threat actors really looking for with Felipe Isaza. Felipe is an author and CEO of Function Inc., a managed IT and cybersecurity firm right here in Miami, Florida. He's also passionate about helping protect small businesses from cyber threats. So grab a cup of coffee and let's get into it. You know, as we're talking about the need for protection, right? What is it that, threat actors are looking for? So what is it that hackers or threat actors are looking for from the average small business?
So I think, and that could be a numerous amount of things, from quality data, and by that I mean anything that has any financials that's attractive to them. So they'll be able to tell, how big your business is with, some of that content that they acquire. Whether if it's a hospital or a one-man realtor, like that's not profitable for them, because no one, that one person realtor just has probably OneDrive and some files and that's it. If they compromise that, I could just recreate my 5 files, no problem. I'm not gonna pay you $5,000. A hospital, which we've seen in the news, that can be worth a lot to them, millions.
Well, one of the interesting things is when, as we talk about, there's so much conversation around the data conversation, right? It's like there's so much value in data and so on and so forth. And we see social media and all that's going on there with, these different companies and privacy laws and so on and so forth. I don't think most of us realize that financial information isn't just credit card, right? So it's not payment information per se. Sometimes financial information could be as simple as a name, an annual net worth,
date of birth,
date of birth, and an address, because with that they can basically recreate a person, right? Yeah,
exactly. And so when we perform risk assessments, what I've implemented is I won't touch your infrastructure until we actually perform a risk assessment, because we're liable. I think you probably know or can relate to some of that stuff being in the industry, where what's happening now is that the IT firms are becoming liable for attacks. Why? Hey, that antivirus has an old firmware or update patch. You left this password too simple, or whatever it is.
Right.
So that's why professionals like us or cybersecurity firms are taking additional precautions when we approach someone off the street or anything like that to help them with their infrastructure.
Well, because it's become, I guess, such a big deal, right? It's
huge deal.
There's so many. I want to say I read a statistic during the height of the pandemic, when people stopped working, everybody went home in 2020, that Google was stopping in the neighborhood of 200 million phishing emails a day, or something of that nature. And when you start to think about that, you're just like, there's 300 million Americans.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a lot to be concerned about.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when part of our assessments is, we scan, going back to this whole the content or piece of information, we scan for PII and amongst other policies or compliance, and like most business owners, like, no, I know what I have in my company. I don't need you to do the assessment, this and that. Before you know it, all their computers have socials, credit card numbers, all this data that if it does get leaked and they don't realize, they can be liable for that information.
Well, and a lot of times, I think there's also the misconception that they want our data, right? So there's an idea of like, oh, well, what, take that.
I don't have anything they can
I don't have anything, right? Like, what's the value? Well, if you're that one-man realtor, as an example, or a one-woman realtor, as an example, what if you have one whale client?
Yeah.
and you have some personal data for that one whale client that under normal circumstances most people don't have access to.
Yeah.
Let's keep the cyber conversation going. If you have any questions for Felipe, ask him in the comments, or I put his contact information in the description. If you have any questions you'd like me to ask Felipe or any other professional in their field, my contact information is also in the description, and I'm always available through a direct message. See you next week for another cup of coffee and more questions answered.